business needs as you expand and globalize your company. That is the more part of the solution. The technical demonstration performed by Rick Hahn will illustrate the solution in the form of PDM for SolidWorks. That is coming up shortly. For those of you who have PDM and require more, this solution can coexist with your existing environment to do more. We will elaborate further during the webinar. To help us better understand the demographics of our audience today, we have two short polls. We will share the results of the polls with you. Now our first poll. We'd like to conduct a brief survey of our audience to learn how you are managing your SolidWorks information today. We know that many people are simply managing your CAD data via files and folders, while others of you may have a PDM system in place today. Please tell us how you operate today. So I'm going to ask Joni to go ahead and start the poll. If you would just take a moment and select one of the options here in front of you and give us some feedback, and we'll be sure to share that with the audience as well. Are you using PDM Workgroup? Are you using ePDM? Are you using simple files and folders and so on? Again, this will just help us with the demographics of the audience, and we'll share that with you here momentarily. Okay, so we're going to close the poll, and Joni will display the poll. So it looks like a majority of you on the call today are using ePDM, which is great. A number of you are using simple files and folders. Some of you are using PDM Workgroup, while others are using some other form of PDM or PLM system. So appreciate the feedback. We'll go ahead and continue with the presentation at this point. So two questions to consider as we get started here. How did the largest market cap company in the world manage to pass all others in such a relatively short period of time? And what do they do differently or better than their competition? Observation shows that they are able to design products and bring them to market like no other company in the world. They innovate, they differentiate, they live or die by time to market. They know globalization is a must world to operate in. They transform their business in a relatively short period of time. The question is, how can you transform yours? So the question is, how can we help you? How can we help you become more efficient in innovation, differentiation, shortening your time to market, and leveraging globalization for growth? Well, let's take a look. First, the good news is that all of you are already using the best design tool in the market today, SolidWorks. As we all know, SolidWorks is a great tool for product development and innovation. But for many of you, this is only part of the challenge in bringing new products to market. Your new products are mechanical, yes, but they also contain electronics and software or firmware. Furthermore, perhaps you have different configurations of the product for different customers and markets. Same product basically, but different software, different packaging, different suppliers based on sourcing. What seems very simple becomes complicated very quickly. So the more part of our presentation today touches on the larger solution. What can we do for you to help manage this complexity? We're going to start with the basics. We will show you how you can manage your existing SolidWorks information today. The solution you're about to see is called ENOVIA V6 for SolidWorks. It's from the parent company of SolidWorks called Dassault Systems. The solution was developed by the SolidWorks team, and you will see it is a neat new way to manage SolidWorks as part of a larger solution. Our demonstration is by Rick Hahn of Dassault Systems, and Rick will take us through the basic navigation of the system from a SolidWorks user perspective. He will show the ability to work entirely in SolidWorks to create new products, assemblies, check them in, check them out from our central repository. This will illustrate the single point of truth, since all product information is in a single system of record to manage work in process and all product revisions and configurations, along with bill of material information. So with that, Rick, over to you.
Well, good morning, everyone. Hopefully everybody can hear me okay. Let's see here. Okay, I think I've got my screen shared here this morning. Hopefully everybody can see me. Frank, can you confirm my screen's up?
Screen is up. Can see and hear you fine. Go ahead, Rick.
All right. Well, I think take a few minutes here this morning to give you guys a brief overview of the SolidWorks integration by ENOVIA that manages our SolidWorks brand application. And what we'll do is dive right into it here. One thing you'll notice right off is I'm not going into a particular product. I'm not launching an application like a PLM application or a PDM application. I'm launching the Windows Explorer. And that's an important fact, is that we try to maintain the same environment regardless of whether you've been using a PLM system or you're still working in the file system. And we know that many SolidWorks users still prefer managing and controlling their files in a file folder type architecture. Here, I just opened a Windows Explorer with a shortcut, and what you see here is this usual Windows Explorer you're familiar with today here in Windows 7. The only difference is that there's a couple of additional folders that are in a slightly different color, and what this indicates is that these folders are actually managed by the PLM system, by the management system itself. And just like regular folders, I can push around and move down into them, and I see files and so forth as I'm used to seeing. The only difference is that we've basically overlaid the file information with additional information about the system that's managing the data information across the internet. And that is, as a side note, the connection I'm making here is just a regular web connection to a server that is actually in another state from where I'm at today. What you see here is files, just as you would in SolidWorks. One thing you notice immediately is a visual difference. The files that are controlled by the PLM system are highlighted in a sharper color than those that are in a vague or faded color. This just gives a quick visual reference of the parts that are known and visible to the larger PLM community of users that are accessing my the same server as I am, or as well as the files that are not controlled. You can also notice here that there's some version revision information. This just indicates what the status is of the files that are locally sitting in my file system, and those mirrored back to the central server. And there is only one server that runs this entire system on a global scale. So I could have teams of users like myself scattered globally, all looking at this same workspace folder simultaneously. And as things change here, they would change globally with what the files is I'm looking at. Now, if I pick any particular file in here, right away you've noticed that we have embedded a previewer. The e-drawing viewer is directly embedded in the interface. Since I picked a file that is actually known to the PLM system, there's some information I can tap into directly that shows me such things as just various attributes that describe this particular component. There's information about the structure it contains, what revisions of components are contained in the structure, etc., etc. As you can see, if I pick a component that is not currently managed, the information is much more limited. However, I still can preview the object before, in case I need to use it in some way inside the assembly. At the top, we see the usual information, checked in, checked out, that you would see in Windows. However, I can right-click, and in addition to this information, I can expand it on a user-by-user basis to include additional information, such as attributes that would be stored in the management system itself. I can expose on my specific client environment. Once again, just overlaying the existing Windows File Explorer. Now, for this situation, what I want to do is take advantage, go right into SolidWorks here. So I want to open an existing assembly that I've already got that isn't under management yet, but it does contain some of these other components we see in the same folder that are currently managed. Here I've opened the assembly in session, and one thing you see is to the far right, there's a tablet tab called ENOVIA, and this is the actual review or view or dashboard per se of the management system running in the background. You see here all the various parts, the hierarchy that you're familiar with in the regular feature tree to the far left. However, additional information is placed in front of you. For example, a status of the objects. These files are in local status. whereas this file is in the latest revision, indicating that the file is actually known to the system, and it has a version revision attached to it at this point. So I've got a mixture here, sort of a bottom-up day in the life of an assembly, where some of the sub-assemblies or subsystems may have already been checked in, and I've got a hierarchical, high-order system assembly that I'm actually working with that contains these known components. Now, before I capture this whole system, this whole assembly into the system, maybe I want to add something to it. So I'm going to do an insert just to bring a part in to show how that works with the PLM system involved. Now, you'll notice that so far I really haven't seen the PLM system, and I won't, because I browse the operating system as I normally would, and then I can go out and pick a part, just as I did, as you would normally do. I could go out and say, gee, I'd like to grab a particular component, but if the situation warrants, I may not know where a particular component is in the system. It could be part of another work area that I don't have access to, so I can always do searches. Since the PLM system has a complete indexing service that lets me find parts, I can search 250,000 parts in 2 to 3 seconds worldwide. So here I found a part I'd like to use, so I'll just double click it as you normally would do without any system involved in the management. And that's the key fact here I'm trying to make, is that the system maintains a file-based paradigm, and it places the PLM system next to SolidWorks. It doesn't place it between you and SolidWorks. So I can work as I'm always done, and since I'm being taken out to the file system as I'm always done, I have a choice of using parts that are controlled by the PLM system, or parts that I've designed and I have yet that are sitting in folders that are not within the system. I have a lot of flexibility of how I work with my designs. Now, over to the side, we see that new part we just added in, and a symbol next to it, a red symbol. What this indicates is, as you can see by the highlight, is that the part is out of date. You're thinking, well, how can this happen since you're working from a central server? Well, for performance reasons, we keep a local cache of all of the parts sitting locally on the drive. We basically keep SolidWorks kind of dumb, per se, in that it's not looking across networks for files. It only looks in one local location here, wherever my local C drive or my local drives on my local environment, to access the parts and assemblies I need to work with. So what may happen is someone somewhere in the world or next to me in the next queue may have checked out and altered this part and checked it back in, creating a new revision of it, as we see here. I can see right away that the revision in the vaults is A.1, whereas the revision I have locally is 1 rev behind. Well, how can I correct this? I can simply right-click the structure and say, well, go ahead and get me the latest version. I can do this throughout a session. I could get latest on any component or an entire assembly while I'm working. I don't have to close and reopen anything to move from one update to the next. So I could be working on a very large assembly here in this view and have multiple engineers working on subcomponents. As they change them, I would see red dots appear. I can refresh and continually work with them at the same time in a very collaborative way. So we've corrected that problem. At this point, I'd like to go ahead and just capture this overall assembly here. So I can choose the assembly, and at this point I can decide to go ahead and check it in. Now you can see here that there's a check-in choice here. There's all the commands that I might need for the PLM are displayed right here. You'll also notice it's a very basic list. We only place the commands at the designer's disposal that he needs. We don't give him all the commands of a broad PLM system that he doesn't need to use on a day-to-day basis to work inside this application. However, many users don't necessarily want to work from icons. They like pull-downs, so you can right-click and check in the structure. Alternatively, you may not like this menu at all, and you say, gee, I'd really like not to see that. I like a bigger screen. I can use the Windows command bar to do check-ins. And there are people that don't like this bar either, so you can check in from here. This may seem a little extreme, but the concept is that we want to allow you to control the real estate of SolidWorks, not get in the way of how you work with SolidWorks. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and check it in from here. When I do a check-in operation, it calls my server, wherever it might be, and it gives me some options about what I can check in. As we know, we checked in this lower locking lever mechanism was already checked in as a sub-assembly doing a bottom-up check-in. Someone else may have checked it in while I was working on the upper assembly. Whatever the case may be, it's already captured in the core system. So I'm only going to transact those parts that I choose to check in at this point. I could uncheck or check in certain subcomponents at this point that maybe I don't want to capture, and I have that flexibility. I'm going to go ahead and let the system check in all the structure though. I also have the ability to keep checked out, meaning when I check in a structure, I want you to immediately check it right back out to me. This just allows me to sort of back up the data as I'm working, but never leave the environment of the assembly that I'm working on all day long, but share it with all my other teammates that might be involved in the same workspace or the same project that I'm working on without ever having to close and open SolidWorks over and over, especially in the case of maybe I'm working on a large high-end assembly that takes some time to launch into a memory. We'll go ahead and check this structure in. So what's doing now is, since this is an unknown structure to the PLM system, all the various some views are being created of it for the core system so that other users can see the data when it's once it's available in the core system. Users that you may be in procurement or shipping that are engineering or manufacturing that don't necessarily have SolidWorks but need a viewing application to be able to look at it locally. So we shoot various images of the part for their purposes. Once all this is done, the system goes ahead and checks in and moves the physical files. It actually compresses the files and transfers them up to the server. Once that's accomplished, we'll see here that now all those that gray overlay has disappeared because the parts are now fully captured in the core system. So everything at this point is up to date. Let's move on to one other use case. In this case, what we're going to do is just quickly create a drawing and see how that is handled by the system as well. So I'm just going to make a quick drawing from the assembly. And I'll just use the standard format here real quickly, and we'll just lay out a quick, simple drawing. And we'll just place a view or two on the drawing here just to give her something to work with. And that'll probably do. So at this point I have a new drawing. Of course I would annotate and complete the drawing, and I'm ready to go ahead and check it in. Well, if I try to, you'll notice there's no commands, and that is because at this point there's no file. And to maintain that file-based approach and not to get between the designer and where he places his files, we enforce the fact that the designer has to make the decision on where he wants to keep this file. So if I decide to save it, once again I'm placed in the File Explorer, and it says, well, where do you want to put it? Of course, I can put it anywhere. If I have the rights, I can place it anywhere. Maybe it's a file I just want to spin out to the to a supplier. I don't really need to capture it. It's just a quick process drawing or something. I don't need to dump it in the PLM system. I have that option. However, in my case, I want to go ahead and capture it, and I've created myself a couple of subfolders in my workspace. So I'm going to go ahead and push down to one of these and just save the drawing. You'll notice next that there's a file name down here, B105. You say, well, where's it getting that from? One of the functions I've turned on the system is to generate a standard part number or file number for every file, so I don't have to be involved in naming all the files and worrying about uniqueness of names and whatnot, because the file name is somewhat secondary in a PLM system. The attributes of the objects and files are what we search for and use to access the information. So this way I can, instead of having to worry with it, and of course this functionality can be turned on or off. I'm going to go ahead and save it into the workspace. And now that it's saved in the workspace, once it refreshes, you can see I now have the rights to check it in. And as I said, there's a very short list of capabilities that are put in front of the user because we don't want to labor them with all the broader functions of PLM system. Check in, check out. You can undo what you've checked out, and as we already seen, we can get the latest version if someone else has updated something we're working with. We can even get an explicit version, as well as look at the history of all versions of information. Beyond that, we can explore it in the global web-based system as well and do further manipulation of design data beyond the user's normal SolidWorks design experience. We'll go ahead and check in this design, though, at this point to capture this information, and we'll see how this handles it. Since everything else was already checked in, all we see that's really being moved into the vaults for transaction is this top-level component. So we'll go ahead and allow this to occur. So only one real object is being moved at this point for this transaction. With that accomplished, the system turns around and refreshes my environment. You'll also notice at the bottom down here we have a local version, a small window that gives me some sub-information about whichever part I happen to be selected at any point in time. And the function of this, of course, is just to give the user a quick thumbnail of information, any attributes I specifically want to see. And as I said, these are controllable at the user level. Each user has the rights of how he wants to see, what attributes I want to see visible in either of these screens, and so it's you can very well personalize the environment. Down at the bottom, we can see the icons that we're also seeing over here that we saw displayed during the session. For example, this one here indicating the local file is older than the file in the vault. These are paired with colors, and as we know, some people have issues with different colors. So you can edit the colors and change them if you're not happy with the colors that are chosen for a various overlay as well to help identify these various states of parts. With that, that pretty much concludes what I wanted to discuss, or just give you a quick overview of what this type of experience looks like. With that, I'm going to return it to Frank.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Well done. So we'll transition back to my screen and we'll continue the presentation here momentarily. Okay. So now you should be able to see my screen okay? Yep. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and continue the presentation. So let's talk about more. The solution offers more than PDM for SolidWorks. It provides a platform for you to transform your business. There are many optional modules for the solution that can be implemented as the business needs grow and change. We have selected a few to discuss here today to give you a feel of the solution's capabilities. First of all, this solution offers a single point of truth. It features a centralized infrastructure to allow you to store all CAD and non-CAD product information. No more searching 2, 3, 4 systems to get a full definition of your product, structure, and bill of material. Second, it provides collaboration tools that can be used throughout the organization. This is a highly interactive, lifelike 3D collaboration platform. Next, we provide advanced capabilities for requirements management, project and program management, and a structured environment for regulatory compliance initiatives like ITAR and CAPA. Bill of material management is also part of the solution. Bill of material can be managed as part of a process that, on release of a new and approved product, can push the bill of materials directly to your ERP system. This can be more than just a CAD bill of material as well. Finally, the solution offers a platform for collaboration with partners and sourcing partners during the design, sourcing, and manufacturing process in a global environment. Let's take a closer look. The solution manages SolidWorks CAD design data as part of the overall solution. If you already have something in place to manage SolidWorks CAD data, you can still implement the solution to help transform your business and meet other business needs. It can be set up to interface with your existing systems. The larger solution manages all product information and can be accessed by all departments to support your global business needs. It is a very powerful web-based architecture with controlled access that can be accessed without installing local software. The larger solution, as we mentioned, offers more than PDM for SolidWorks. In organizations that are growing and acquiring new companies in remote locations, collaboration becomes key. The ability to assimilate the new company and cross-sell products is typically the basis for the acquisition. Companies look to assimilate acquisitions as quickly as possible to grow revenue and leverage resources where it makes sense. So we thought we'd touch on 5 brief examples. We've selected 5 examples to illustrate the solution's capabilities. These examples do not represent the entire system capabilities, but we thought they would resonate with our audience, and they are applicable across a wide range of industries. So let's take a look. Our first example starts with requirements management. We all know that engineering and design and new product development is an iterative and complex process. So what are companies doing here? Most companies are using Excel spreadsheets, but this approach does not offer the history and traceability people want. How do we track costing? What is the current version of the spreadsheet? Who approved what? When was it approved? How did it affect the product cost? This solution offers an integrated approach that can be employed as part of your environment to help you transform the way you do business. Here's another example. We talked about complex bills of materials. Product and portfolio management can also be a critical part of the solution. Companies like New Balance and Under Armour may ask, what seasonal products do we want to offer? When do we want to sell it? How's it going to be packaged? What are the sourcing options? What is the historical performance of my sourcing partners? What is the price point that we're targeting for the consumer? What will the product look like? What features and options will be included? Of course, marketing will want to have some input on the process. This all comes before the engineering and product development process. This becomes a planning tool. What are we trying to offer our customers? With an integrated approach, product development knows what the company is trying to accomplish. For our third example, the larger solution is managing all of the information with project scheduling and timeline tasks. Who needs to do what and when? What tasks are completed? Are we on schedule? This is an integrated approach that provides better visibility to activity and resource allocation and availability. The result can be a planning dashboard for the business. Example number 4 provides project dashboards as part of our integrated solution. This gives you a visual understanding of where your projects are, helps you manage risk, and allows you to reprioritize and know when you can meet customer delivery and expectations. It's all about giving you the visibility to support decision-making and helping you run your business more efficiently. Our final example is to incorporate Microsoft Office documents. Maybe we want to attach additional documents from customers and other departments as part of the product development process. Email and anything that drives product definition and influences your decision-making can be associated with the product or project. Again, all relevant information in a single location for reference later as needed by the business. So in summary, hopefully what you've seen today is that managing your CAD file information is part of the solution. But there's so much that goes into product development, as you know. CAD file management is just one box of the process. Yes, it's an important part of the process, but hopefully you've seen today that you need a platform to support your entire product development process. This is business transformation, enabling you to do what you do today faster, with less confusion, because this is a common integrated system, a single source of the truth. Here are a few examples of companies transforming their business today using this solution. Here are several companies, but there are many. We chose to share a few of the brand name companies so that you know you're in good company in considering the solution. You will note that they span a number of industries. This solution is designed to meet the needs of multiple industries. Dassault Systems has scaled the solution for the mid-market. We have taken what we have learned working with the Fortune 500 and simplified it for the mid-market to allow you to realize quick time to value. At the end of the day, the goal here is to provide a solution that is easy to implement, easy to use, and provides quick time to value.